and for his blessings. He has now come in our midst. He's with us. We don't see him as a spook. Right. That's right. He's no spook. He's a live man. He's a living God. I'm sorry that I have not asked you to sit down. You look so beautiful, and I don't want you to sit down.
Convey a message to you. He's my friend. I like him a lot, and I'm going to tell you why I brought him in and why I think he's important to the future of you learning about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And his name is Yosef bin Asiel Israel. Salam alaikum.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, who appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom righteous and holy praise is forever due. We thank that great God for his coming to the wilderness of North America to raise up amongst us the first begotten from the dead. That special soul, I speak none other than the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. In those holy and righteous names, I greet you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. We'll be right back after these quick commercials. Looking for something that feels good, looks great, and stands the test of time? Well, we have it for you. Black Royalty is our athleisure line that is made from the finest bamboo and cotton blend. We have designed high quality tracksuit and t-shirts in multiple colors that provide you the most comfort when you need it most. Whether you're in the gym or running errands or just lounging around with loved ones, you need to be in the best quality clothing as possible. We have constructed a high quality clothing line that does not break the bank, and we beat out all of our competitors on price. So please, if you're interested in being comfortable, not just in the gym, but when you're running around and doing errands, please visit blackroyaltywear.com. Also, you can find us on Instagram at Black Royalty. And if you have any questions or comments about our brand and how you can help participate, you can find us at blackroyaltywear@gmail.com. We'll be quick to answer your questions, and with our responses, we will be very thorough. So also, like I said, Black Royalty is for you because it was made by you with the intentions of serving you. So leave all those other clothing lines behind and get on what makes sense, something that's going to stand the test of time, because black don't crack. Looking to get the courage to get up and get out and do something this summer, whether it's just getting overall healthier state or lose a couple pounds for that beach body? Well, we got the answer for you. Summer Fitness Boot Camp, held every Saturday from June 1st to August 10th from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on 39th and Cottage Grove at the football field. For a cost of $10, we put you through a rigorous training of functional and strength and endurance, using only your body weight to get into the health that you need to sustain yourself long term. So if you're interested in getting your body more active and being a healthier version of yourself, come on out. Contact 312-646-8449 or 312-391-5234. Ask for Corey or Prince Yosef. Now this is the opportunity of a lifetime where you get expertise training to get in the shape that you deserve, not just need. Once again, every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. for only a cost of $10 from the weeks of June 1st to August 10th, 2019. Come out to 39th and Cottage Grove, the football field, where you can get into a better version of yourself. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back again, my brothers and sisters, to another installment of Know Thyself Radio Show, where we make it our business, our duty, our responsibility to to give you nothing but the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad to solve the problems of the black man and woman in this day and time. And as always, it's an honor and a privilege to bear witness to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who we know was given to him by God Almighty, who appeared in the personage of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom righteous and holy praises forever due. And why is that point so important? Why is that point a part that we need to pay grave attention to? As you heard in the opening, which I have changed for this episode going forward, you heard the most honorable Elijah Muhammad bear witness to Master Farad, a God that was sent for us, the God that was sent for us, who appeared as a man, not as a spook, not as a spirit, not as some ambiguous idea, concept that doesn't have any definition, cannot be defined, cannot be characterized, but an actual living man, something that is tangible, something that is practical, something that has senses, something that we can observe, something that we can see, touch, and feel. Why is that important? Because throughout our tenure here in the wilderness of North America, we have been given so-called solutions. We have been given so-called answers. We have been given so-called situations of improvement that are intangible, that don't yield or produce anything that is practical or functional. We have been given, over our tenure here in the wilderness of North America, all things that don't have any benefit to our freedom, to the acquiring of justice, equality, and peace. We've been given a God that does not have definition, though we are being put in position to serve a real God, though he is not the God, but the white God that has been created and has been placed over us as a steward. See, ever since their interaction with us, they were already contextualized in our minds to serve them as our God. Though they were painting a picture as this God that's in the sky, this omnipotent being, as they reconditioned our mind after they totally destroyed it through that 64-year period of us being over here, the making of a slave from 1555 to 1619. Once we were put in a stupor, once we were made deaf, dumb, and blind, now they were able to reprogram our pathological or neurological pathways, into a sense that we will be more receptive to the lies and deception that they have given us. Though we know God simply means one with power and might. And so by that definition, the white man has put himself as a God because he has had power and might over us. He is not the great and omnipotent God. He is not the original God. And he is not the God that we would be able to serve if we're going to have any close resemblance of freedom, justice, equality, or actually it in its totality. We've been given education. Though that education has taught us how to maybe read or write in the language of English, it has not taught us how to create a system where we are independent thinkers that does not have to depend on a system of white supremacy to feed us inadequately, I must say, to clothe us inadequately, if I must say, and to shelter us inadequately, if I must say. What am I saying? Our house is efficient. It has walls, it has ceilings, it has windows, it has doors. It keeps me cool in the summer and warm in the winter. That's not what I mean. I mean, the system of housing is one that is unjust and unfair. That's why you see hundreds of thousands and even up into the millions of black men and women who are either out of doors, or if they do have some type of housing, it is inadequate, low income in the sense that it doesn't have the proper infrastructure to maintain a healthy environment for the children and the families that reside in it. Listen to what I'm saying. It's more than just four walls and a door, a foundation and a ceiling, which we know a foundation doesn't really serve or yield its purpose if it's a faulty one. And I'm saying the foundation of what our reality has been based on here in the wilderness of North America has been one on lies and deception, meaning it is faulty at the core, meaning that it will never last, and we will continuously stay in a situation of imbalance and unstableness. We have to look at the root of what we've been taught. The monetary system which we have bought into, which we choose to give our lives for in the acquisition of so-called wealth, does not have any true meaning, as we know, which has been taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad in the fall of America, even to the message of the black man in America, that the dollar does not have no real power, that it have no real worth. Not only is it an absent object, it's one that is very useless in the sense of its true backing. These Federal Reserve notes are just printed paper that we give more validity to than they're actually worth. Meaning that at some point, when are you going to create your own economic system, black man? When are you going to put value on your own worth, black man? When are you gonna stop letting someone determine what your time is worth? Whether I give you $8.75 for an hour, or even $10 or even $15.75 for an hour. How can another man judge the worth of your time on this planet when you were created as God, master of the universe, cream of this planet? As I stated in the previous episode, and so taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, in his small but significant book, The Flag of Islam, the stars, the moon, the sun, this all was put in the universe to be a subservient to you, to be up under you, to be second to you. You have the power over these things. Not that you were the creator, but the creator who created these things made you superior to those things that we give homage and we try to be in awe in of today. Like I said, it's so important to know who God is, because to know who God is gives you a true and thorough understanding of who you are. Now I'm going on this long diatribe, so to speak, be it is necessary as I go into the subject matter of what I will be speaking on this wonderful podcast. And today's subject matter, because I'm so excited to get it to you, brothers and sisters, because we're in a time where lies and deception have been pushed on us at such a rate that we have been numbed to the reality of things. That lies and deception have been inculcated in our very existence to a certain extent that we don't even understand we've been lied to. And when somebody tells the truth to us, we look at it as if they are attacking us. That's what I'm saying. We are in such a state of decadence and disconnection from truth and righteousness that it has no purpose to save us. And whenever truth has the inability to save a people, that means deception has totally succumbed them and overtaken them. That's what we must address. And how do you address that? By getting to what the subject matter of today's episode is the art of confusion. Now, I want to read to you, before I go any further into the conversation that we'll be having tonight, and it's going to be a beautiful one. I want to read to you the definition of confusion. Now tonight, brothers and sisters, before I read this definition, we're going to get deep. And we may be offending some people, which is okay, because I don't mind offending you, because I know my heart's one is in the right place, because I don't come to offend you to be disparaging. I come to bring light to the darkness which you've been placed in. And if that is offensive, then so be it. But I am mandated, obligated by God Almighty to disseminate this truth which was given to me, which I know through trial and tribulation that it has proven to work. Now, confusion, because I'm talking about the state of the black man and woman in America today, but throughout this planet. And as we know, we are in a state that we're not able to overcome the circumstances and situations, the impediments, the roadblocks, the blockades that have been placed before, on top, and behind and around us. We are engulfed in a state of the inability and unableness and unwillingness to progress. So what is that, the cause of that? And I think is the confusion through the systematic oppressive state of this devil. Now, first definition. Listen to what it says. And I said before, though the English vocabulary, the English language is deceptive in nature, the root of it has a lot of truth, because we know, though they try to say that the root of the English language are found in the Latin or the Romantic languages, but we know that the Latin languages are derived from Semitic languages, ancient Semitic languages, which we know the languages of the black man and woman. Now, first definition, the lack of understanding, uncertainty, a situation of panic, a breakdown of order. Listen now, a disorderly jumble, a state of being bewildered or unclear in one's mind about something, the mistaking of one person or thing for another. Now, let that marinate for a minute as I continue to read confusion. The definition of confusion. I'm gonna read this again. An act or instance of confusing. The quality of state of being confused. A confused mass or mixture. Now let's get into the meat of it. A situation in which people are uncertain about what to do or are unable to understand something clearly. Now let's stop right there. I said earlier at the beginning of this podcast that we did not have any fundamental understanding of what to do, where to go, and how we got into that particular place, because the root of what we've been taught, the root of who we are, was based on the premise of a lie, and that was, who was God? How do you identify God? Now, if you are unclear about what God is, how God works, how you would identify God, you are totally unclear about who you are, how to identify yourself, and how to operate on this planet. Because to truly be God, to truly know thyself and have understanding of thyself, is nowhere on this planet that the black man can be, whether he was raised there, whether he was dropped there from an airplane, that he's not able to look around, assess the situation, and be able to efficiently take care and adapt, not just of himself, but whatever the problems that may arise on his way to or from where he is going. You are totally comfortable in whatever circumstance of situation that you are in. That's the meaning of being the original black man. You are the steward of this planet. You're the master of this universe. But how are we in a state that wherever we on this planet, we're always at the bottom? How are we in the state that wherever we're in this planet, we're always taken advantage of? How are we wherever we are on this planet, even we have amassed some type of so-called monetary wealth, so kind of notoriety, some type of education, we still fall victim to the systems that are in place to keep us in the place of a boy, of a child, of a servant, of a slave, of a beast of the field. There has not been an example that one person has been able to overcome his circumstances without first identifying the circumstances or the reality of the circumstances that was in place. What am I saying? You can't be in a system and omit the fact that it is racially motivated and think that it is a circumstance where they're just not working hard, or where they're just not applying themselves, or they're just not following the rules. And that's what we try to tell ourselves as black men and women, that the Negroes are the problem and not systematic white supremacy, or not that this oppressive devil that has been put in place to try to circumvent and supplant God. You're not understanding the problems and the predicaments that you're in. That's why even those who say they believe in God try to give solutions that don't involve or include God. You cannot, as a black man and woman, think that you're going to be victorious without invoking or having a plan that is divine, a plan that is centered around God. I know you've been lied to about what and who God is, and you're right. With that God, you won't be victorious, nor will you ever even be able to mount any type of attack or defense against your enemy. But the knowledge of the true and living God will always make you victorious. See, we have to remove confusion from the psyche of our people. So no, you are unable to understand something clearly. That's why I spoke about previously the agenda of making our people not just homosexual, not just queer, but now taking it a step further and making them transsexual, because the art of confusion has been implemented not just sexually from using the transsexual movement, but sexually is not disconnected from spiritual. Sexual is not disconnected, from the mental. Sexual is not disconnected from the psychological, the intellectual, or any other faculty of the mind and the body of society. They're all one and the same. They're all inculcated. So if you're sexually confused, you're confused in every other aspect of your life. So no, you are not able to understand something clearly. That's why I spoke about last week when I talked about a couple weeks back when I was a participant on that panel and the sexual conversation came up about blacks being ostracized in religion organizations or spiritual arenas because of their sexual orientation or their decision to practice same-sex marriage as a predominant issue over all of the other issues. But of course they would make that pronouncement because they're not able to understand the clear and concise picture. And this is not a knock to my brothers and sisters who may be homosexual or transsexual, but it is a wake-up call saying, hey, if you don't see the onslaught and the attack on our people that you are willingly participating in for reasons that you don't or may not understand, that don't mean that there's still a reality. As they say in their world, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So what do you think in nature's world or nature's law? If you are ignorant to the reality of it, that does not be an excuse or give you a pass on why you will not be in a situation that judgment will not fall on you. I told you we're going deep today and I'm starting off early, but hey, some things got to be said. Let me continue with on. The feeling that you have when you do not understand what is happening, what is expected. That's why the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us the time and what must be done. And he gave us in this book, in the 59 Saviors Day, which was turned into the book at Crow, Birth of a Savior, the beginning of the creation of God and the beginning of time. Because you will not know or understand what is happening, what is expected, if you don't understand the root or the beginning of how this all started. But that's another topic, and I'll go deeper into that at another time. But the other definition, a state or situation in which many things are happening in a way that is not controlled by you or orderly. Now, to be in a state of confusion, to be confused at the root, is to not be in control of your own life, to not be in control of your own situation, to not be in control of your own reality, to not be in control of the things that a person should be independent of. So to be in a system of white supremacy means somebody has dominion over you. That means they have governance over you. That means they have control over you. That means they determine your reality. They determine the factors and aspects of your life. Somebody determines what the number that you should make a year. They determine your financial wealth. They determine your educational level. They determine whether you can have this or that. They determine whether you can open up a business. You hear what I'm saying? Somebody's making decisions over your life each and every day. That means you who are not able to make that decision are in a state of confusion. You're not using the capacity of your mind to determine your own reality. Gotta hear what I'm saying. So no, it is not good enough just to work a job. No, it is not good enough just to let somebody tell you what you should be doing and you just follow suit. No, it is not good enough to just be sitting idly by and waiting for somebody to make judgment for you, hoping that they're feeling benevolent that day and won't take your life, hoping that the police officer isn't in a bad mood and he don't feel like shooting a Negro today. You can't make any sound decisions. You can't be in good mental health when you're in a perpetual state of confusion because you don't have control of your own reality. And by proxy, if somebody else is controlling your reality, controlling the major faculties and facets of your life, that means that it is no order in what you are doing. That's how deep this thing is. The whole concept of white supremacy is to keep you in a position that you don't have control over your life, meaning that you don't have the proper order of things, because it is to turn you upside down. So that's why when I said that it had made a full 180 turn from being that God into the total submissive servant by us entering into a reality where we have become transsexuals. And you say, well, you're making that transsexual thing a real heavy piece, because I'm trying to show you the physical production of what was already going on mentally, spiritually, intellectually, and emotionally. That's just a finished product, but you had already been transformed. You've been a trans-mental person. You've been a trans-emotional person. You've been a trans-intellectual person. What am I saying? I mean, you have been moved from one state of consciousness. You've been moved from one state of being. You've been moved from one state of physical health to another. That's why people to this day and time are so obese. You've been moved from a one level of health, from physical activity, from physical proudness, to a state of total submissiveness. You didn't even think about that. To be obese means that you are again giving somebody else control over your life, meaning that you don't even have the ability to properly defend yourself or defend the body from the attack that it may come from high cholesterol, from the possibilities and the prospects of having heart attack, diabetes, so forth and so on. So how can you properly fight white supremacy when you can't even properly fight the diseases and the ailments that are internally taking you over? See, that's by design. That's not your natural self. That's by design. That's why the teacher, the master teacher, the messenger, The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us 2 books on how to eat to live. That's why in the Hebrew community, we had implementation of the vegan diet. Or if you look at any serious people, they have the proper protocols on the proper diet habits that will ensure longevity. We cannot overlook or understate the importance of a holistic lifestyle. You gotta hear what I'm saying, brother, sister. If you are undisciplined in one aspect of your life, you're undisciplined in every. You must see the totality of things. Now, the art of confusion. I'm just breaking down the definition. Now, difficulty in understanding or being able to tell one thing from a similar thing. A feeling or state of uncertainty. Now, being able to differentiate, being able to determine, the inability to have discernment, that's confusion. You can't discern the difference when one is placed in your preview, what is proper and what is improper. You can't discern from seeing physically the lust for a woman to the actual morals and attributes that she has that will protect and ensure your longevity, that have the ability and the attributes to be an endearing wife, a loving mother, a helpmeet, one who can push you along and not pull you back, one that can help you rise to the top and not hold you down. Since even the language that I need a girl that's gonna hold me down, meaning I need one that will not keep me from reaching my destiny. That's what we're saying as a way of infection, but in actuality, it has been our own detriment. We don't even understand the language that we're speaking. It's the art of confusion. You got to look at what's being done. Confusion. This is a system here in America where right now, currently, cocaine is illegal. But at one time in America, cocaine was legal. Not only was it legal, it was put in household products. It was used in dentistry offices and medical offices. Hey, guess what? Coca-Cola drinkers. It was actually a product. It was an ingredient in the product of Coca-Cola. That's where you get the Coca-Cola name from. And not just the coca leaf. For those who know what the coca leaf is, it's a green leaf that, no, it is not a drug. It's a herb that can be used to give you energy. But it was always used in a more deviant manner where it was artificially produced to have adverse effects. Cocaine, just like other opiums, were used to keep a people in a state of confusion. But because a system is not just based on its monetary gain, how it's able to capitalize monetarily off of a product, but the control that it's create. Because there's no coca leaves that are grown here in the North America, so it was grown mostly in Central and South America. And to keep the monopoly on those countries and to keep them financially restricted in its ability to have higher GDPs in the system which they created. See, they rigged the rules in their system. But for them to keep the system without creating a new one, they got to make sure certain people are always at the bottom. So let's make it illegal. Now, this allows us to, one, monitor the control of the drugs in and out the country, because now we can use our intelligence agencies, CIA, SNA, and even FBI, and even the Department of Defense, and now Homeland Security, to be drug smugglers into the country. But now we also create a bad guy and a boogeyman, which allows us to have external enemies so that we can continue to keep the people inside fearing somebody externally, so they never see the real problem that's already inside the country. So now you have confusion amongst the people and who is truly their oppressor and who is truly putting them in a position that they're keeping, or that are keeping them from being progressive. You also are able to now create other industries around it. whether it be creating weapons to fight the so-called war on drugs, creating policies and creating other companies and task force. See, it's a whole game agenda around confusion, which benefits a select few in a various of ways. And because we're so deaf, dumb, and blind, we just go with it. But we also see that what was done with liquor and how it was legal. Then you had the Volstead Act, which made it through prohibition illegal, and then they made it legal again. Confusion. Marijuana, which was legal, now then it was illegal, now it's legal again, and now you just trying to keep up and catch up. But that's all part of the game. Oh, I got to get a part of the hemp and the legal marijuana business because now it's $1 trillion industry. It's been $1 trillion industry, and it's been those who have already been connected in their reality. But black people, you don't need to do nothing with that. You don't need no substance that will keep you unable to fully process and operate at the higher mental levels that you need to fight your oppressor. We should never drink no liquor. We should never smoke no weed. We should never do no drugs because we don't need 1 second of deviation from what needs to be done. And what needs to be done is enacting a society and a world of our own that is independent of our oppressor without their ability to find our reality, ability to control our own land, our own language, our own culture, to have our own resources, to have some earth of our own where we can develop agriculture, build our own houses and infrastructure and institutions. That is what our number one goal and mandate should be, and not one thing in our life should be entertained that does not pertain to that reality. That's the plan that we should be on. So when we've been asked what we need to do, that's what you need to do. And so taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm almost done with the definition of confusion. Last one. And this is the medical definition of confusion. Disturbance of consciousness characterized by inability to engage in orderly thought or by lack of power to distinguish, choose, or act decisively. When you look at our people, now this is a medical definition now. So confusion is a medical or mental disorder or retardation, meaning those who have accepted white supremacy by their own medical legal definition is suffering a form of retardation. You gotta hear me out now. Your inability to have power over your reality, to distinguish the lie from the truth, to choose what is good for you and what is adversely affecting you, to act decisively in the moment of decision is a form of mental retardation. Think about how many people procrastinate. Think about how many people always sitting idly by and say, well, I'm just going to keep on working on this till it get to the point where I'm able. No, that's called procrastination, which is what? The inability to act decisively. When you see opportunities that present themselves, there is no reason that you should hold yourself back because you feel inadequate, because you feel that you don't have the ability to do what is needed to be done. You're unwilling to take advantage of opportunities that have been given to you by the God himself. What am I saying? There should not be a black man and woman, especially in this country, who says they believe in God, who says they want freedom, who says they want justice, who says they want equality, and don't attach themselves to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Because all we want is what's best for our people. Just like every other people wants what's best for their people. But you're the one who've bought into this lie that we gotta be a people that mix in and assimilate with everybody else. We gotta be a people who are so focused on the collective versus what is good and what's right and just for us. Because nobody cares about you and nobody will. But yet and still, somehow, some way, you keep trying to find a way
to do what is best for everybody else. You got to hear me out today, brother and sister. You got to hear me out. Remember, the art of war is based on one premise, one reality: deception. Deception is confusion. Remember now, all warfare is based on deception. Sun Tzu said it himself. He said, when you are in the presence of your enemy, of your opposition, you must appear inactive. What does white supremacy do? Some of them still pretend that it don't exist. Oh, we're not racist. We pretend inactive. Oh, we're not a part of the Ku Klux Klan. Meaning, we're not white supremacists. Because Ku Klux Klan ain't the only white supremacists. White supremacists is their nature. That's just an organization that was created around something they had already were created to perpetuate. So don't get confused whether they part of the Ku Klux Klan or the Proud Boys or any of those white supremacist organizations or white nationalist organizations. Their nature is to practice white supremacy, which is the nature of any people, is to feel supreme. Which, like I've said before on this podcast and many other situations, I don't care about you wanting to be supreme or feeling you supreme. That's not my problem with you, white boy. My problem with you is when your supremacy or your belief infringes on my rights and on my abilities and my livelihood. When it adversely affects the way I feed, clothe, and shelter myself. That's where we have a problem. And your deliberate and open and egregious attack on my people is what's brought this problem to a head. And that's why you must be removed. But like I said, he appears to be inactive. When you are near, you got to pretend you far away. And when you're far away, pretend you are near. Confusion. Confusion. That's why it was always the plan of white supremacy to evolve into a circumstance where they could break the enemy's resistance without fighting. And the mind is willing, listen to this now. If the mind is willing, the flesh could go on and go on without many things. But when the mind is broken and defeated, so is the body. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. You got to know your enemy to beat your enemy. Remember what I said now. Victorious winners win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. That's been the whole premise. That's why the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, you don't need a gun. You don't need a penknife. What was he saying? You cannot react to what has already been done. You can't be responding to what's already. That's a trap. Anybody who plays chess knows you can't fall for the sacrifice. You already in your mind enact and invoke your plan, your winning strategy, and then you just play it out. That's why the white boy, he has stratagems when he invokes his work, when he does the things that he does. He has stratagems. Now remember, even with the Emancipation Proclamation, the Civil War, that whole thing, that was a proxy, a fake, a farce to make it seem like they were fighting on behalf of the freedom of the slaves, but in actuality, they were fighting on how to better use the slaves or the black labor force in more effective ways. The South wanted to make it more agrarian lifestyle and wanted to keep it the way it was. The North were being more industrial and wanted to use more of a labor workforce than the more traditional plantation workers. but they came up with a compromise in using Abraham Lincoln, who had Aboriginal blood, who had black blood, nevertheless, who had submitted his mind to white supremacy, and that's why he was anti-black, just like every other president. But they came up with a system that was slavery without submission and emancipation without freedom, meaning they didn't have to have you physically in bonds and chains no more, but they could have your mind totally be submissive to their will. And that's how you can enact the Emancipation Proclamation, but it doesn't produce or ensure any freedom. That it just change the form of bondage and servitude that you would be under. Confusion, letting somebody else have dominion, control, and be able to dictate the terms of your life. Now I want you to hear me out for a second. We, because we have been reduced to the deaf, dumb, and blind, have accepted a Negro mentality that has been enacted since chattel slavery, but have been perpetuated up until this very moment. Now I want to read something to you that was written by a former slave, John Little. Why is this important? Because he represents the sentiment of those in this dispensation of time, and for me clearly illustrates how we can still be slaves in 2020, how we can still be in slavery without the precepts of being in bonds, chains, shackles, and so forth. Emancipation without freedom, slavery without submission, willing slavery. We willingly choose to be servants. I talked about last week the movie Angry Birds and how it depicted the black mentality that we play too much, and because of that, somebody's able to control and take over our world, our reality, our environment. Listen to this, John Little. They say slaves are happy because they laugh and are merry. I myself, 3 or 4 others, have received 200 lashes in the day and had our feet in fetters. Yet at night we would sing and dance and make others laugh at the rattling of our chains. Happy men must have been. Listen to what he said. He said, happy men we must have been. We did it to keep down trouble and to keep our hearts from being completely broken. That is as true as the gospel. Just look at it. Must not we have been very happy? Yet I have done it myself. I have cut capers in chains. Now, this is a Negro who knows, for the most part, that he's in a terrible situation. But yet and still, instead of taking the time, the energy to devise a plan to overcome his circumstances, to free and rid himself of the servitude and bondage that he is in, he would rather placate his own mind and create an environment where he gives the illusion of happiness, of some type of contentment by dancing, joking, and laughing, and trying to paint a picture that he is showing some type of strength and some type of fortitude. To keep our hearts from being completely broken and to keep down trouble, we pretend like we happy. And after so much pretending, you start to believe that you're happy, and then you start to accept your reality. What am I saying? In this day and time, you have told yourself, if I get a nice car, if I get a nice home, if I can make it on this job, if I can make this much money, if I can post pictures on Instagram with some couple dollars in my hand, if I could date a couple women, if I could do this, if I could do that, that means I'm okay. Not facing the reality of things, that I'm being shot down in the streets, that I'm being killed aimlessly, that I'm in a system of white supremacy. No matter what I do, I will always be at the bottom. I don't want to face that reality. I'd rather have sex. I'd rather chase girls. I'd chase men. I'd rather become a man. If I'm a woman, I would rather become a woman. If I'm a man, I would rather do everything and anything to keep my mind off the servitude that I am perpetuating and that I am participating in every single second of my life. That's why you can't make no decisions, or you can't act decisively, because at this point you have not only accepted confusion, you dwell and find delight in the confusion that you participate in. That's why you're dominated. I want to give you some numbers real quick. This was the Department of Commerce in the U.S., where it talked about U.S. corporations and its investments. Listen to this. Between 1950 and 1965, America invested, or its corporations, which is America, invested $8.1 billion in Europe and made $5.5 billion in profits, meaning it was in the red. Now, they invested $3.8 billion in Latin America and made $11.2 billion in profits. Now listen to this. They invested $5.2 billion and made $14.3 billion in profits in Africa. What am I saying? Look at the difference in those three. You got America invested in Europe, which is all white, other European nations, which other white supremacist nations, and they tried to invest in their corporations and they wasn't able to make a profit. That's why they were in the red. That's why they were in the negative, because another white European nation wasn't going to let another white European nation just come in and be able to build wealth on their backs. Matter of fact, it's going to cost you to do business here. It's going to cost you to bring your corporations here. Yeah, you can make some money, but we going to make more. Now, when it moved to Latin America, which is predominantly black, but at the same time has been conquered by Europeans, so still have white influence and white power structure there. Yes, they made money, but it wasn't as much money they made when they went into Africa, which they say is in the black or they're the most profitable, because they were dominated all black people. What am I saying? Because wherever you are on the planet, you always at the bottom. You always get taken advantage of. You always get treated the worst, while everybody else is able to prosper off your back, off your labor, off your riches, off your resources. Because you have accepted something that is outside of yourself to determine and predict your future and your reality. You are not involved in your progression and your future. And everybody knows it. That's why even to this very moment, it's still a continual bombardment of outside influences rushing to Africa to take advantage of the black man and woman in that land and to rape them of their resources. Europe did it for over 150 years, still doing it. But India came in and said, I want a piece of the pie. China's in there, other Asian nations, because they see that you're wide open for the raping and you're not going to put up a fight because you suffer from a mental retardation. The inability to know who you are, the inability to know God, the inability to identify the devil. This is Know Thyself radio show, so every episode we make it our duty, our business, our responsibility to give you nothing but the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad to solve the problem of the black man and woman in this state in time. So I want to read to you briefly the fall of America. I'm going to start with page 74. And on 74 is the chapter Independence. Listen to the messenger. Independence means to be free from the dominance of others. It is a very happy feeling for one to enjoy self-freedom. Let's put a pause right there. Let's put a pause right there. Let's put a pause right there. Now, I talked about how the white race has went into all over this planet where black people were at and were able to create freedom for themselves. Why no matter where you are always being mistreated. You're always at the bottom. You have been broken down by the enemy and totally stripped of any identifiable markers that you were ever the creation of God. I'm going to skip for a second to page 105. Same book, Fall of America. Confusion of the people. Now, the rise of America's once slave into the knowledge of self in the spirit of Allah in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the Son of Man, the author of the resurrection of us, the mentally dead, is causing untold confusion among the heads of states. Now, I talked about you being in confusion, but once you rise and the knowledge of God comes to you, you automatically bring confusion to the other heads of states that have been dominating you. The scripture is being fulfilled wherein it prophesizes that in these days, meaning the end of the wicked world of Satan, rulers are against kings and kings against rulers. Now that you see, even though it's another form of confusion to keep you disconnected from what you should be focusing on, you see the turmoil that is going on presently, even here in America, with the impeachment of Trump and this so-called in-house fighting between Democrats and Republicans, and why it's almost an onslaught of the removal of Trump from the Oval Office. But that is another form of confusion. That's another form of deception, which is a form of warfare, because we know that Trump did not bring racism to America, to the United States, to the government. It had already been there. We know that Trump was open white supremacist long before he hit office. But because we deaf, dumb, and blind, and we go for whatever the media presents us, so we were able to fall for the rebranding. We became a hip-hop so-called idol and was intermingling in the New York club scene with rap artists and so-called mogul artists, whether it be Diddy and Jay-Z and these guys. And they made affectionate raps about getting money like Trump and this and that. But this was the same guy in the 70s who indiscriminately held proper housing from people who could afford it, from blacks, because he didn't want them in his establishments. This is the same one who took op-eds and put thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the persecution, wrongful persecution of the Jackson Park 5, the Central Park 5, excuse me. Hell, he would have did the Jackson 5 too if he could have. But not to make light of it, but I'm saying this is a man who every chance he get, which he is representative of the society in total, that whenever chance they get to show their true colors, they will prove to you their hatred, their open and outright disdain for you and I. But you're seeing their world is being turned on this end. In the days of the prophets, there were no heads of government who were given the name president. Rulers were referred to as rulers, as kings of the people. The prediction of the prophets who wrote our future before we lived is now coming to pass. The slaves, or a foolish people as they were referred to by Moses, are vexing the slave master. Today, as these prophecies are now being fulfilled, we are not surprised that the truth God gave us through the mouths of his prophet coming to pass as it was prophesied. The master must give up his slave, and the slave must give up his master, regardless of his desire to remain with his master. It is the purpose of God himself to separate the two so that he can give the slave justice and equal chance for survival, as the slave master has been exercising power over the slave. America is being torn to pieces politically, as Pharaoh's political party was in the days when Jehovah went after the freedom of Israel. Egypt was plagued with droughts and great hail, storms, rain, and fire, according to the Psalms, running side by side, fire and water. These plagues now are visiting America from Almighty God Allah. Now, you can say it's just something that was written, or it's just scripture or prophecy that was prophesied. But we can't honestly just say that, because we are bearing witness to that reality right now. As you see the continuous bombardment of that southeast corridor of America that's hidden by hurricane after hurricane going up the whole East Coast, whether you see the storms that are coming to parts of America and Colorado and the Rockies at this present moment, the droughts, the fires that's been ravishing California, side by side, storm and water, as we see that their systems, political systems, are not having no viable ability to even retain those who it's there to serve, which is the white people of America. It's coming in apart and it's unraveling before our very eyes. But again, because of the art of confusion, we keep saying, we gotta vote for this person, we gotta vote for that person. It's nothing to vote for. The system is becoming non-existent. It's imploding. That means it's destroying from the very inside. But yet and still, you keep trying to find some answer in a system that has nothing for you. Oh, man. Our people who have no knowledge of the book and scriptures can make grave errors in trying to continue with an old world of the black man's enslavers and enslavement teach. There are many of our people, especially among yesterday's leadership, who desire to lead the shackled slave into more secure shackles for the sake of the master and for the fear of the master's dislike of the leadership. Didn't I read earlier when I read, as they used to say in the South, but as I read the Southern plantation workers' testimony that they fear attack, so they pretended to be happy and playful to make it an easier, or at least they thought it would be an easier servitude that they would have to face because of the fear of lashes. You've been made a coward, man. I mean, totally. This is found among the spiritual leaders more than among the political leaders of the Black America, which makes manifest to you that the spiritual leadership fears not the God of truth and justice, but fears the enemy of God. God is the author of freedom, justice, and equality of man. We must unite with the black nation of the earth, of which you and I are members, and who are leaving in search of us. Since now, having the knowledge that we were bound in the chains of slavery in the western hemisphere of our earth, we cannot come forth. making the steps of freedom towards a free people until the shackles have been cut to allow our steps to be made freely. You cannot do anything that will be consequential, beneficial, and advantageous for your people until you remove the confusion that has been placed in your minds and your hearts and on your physical bodies first. That is a prerequisite before you even attempt freedom, justice, and equality. You have to first not be in a state of confusion. You have to remove the shackles. You have to give up your willingness to be a submissive servant unto this white supremacist world. It is written so plainly in the last book of the Bible that the fearful and the unbelieving leadership and their followers of the enemy, the beast, and the scriptures does not try to hide giving the slave master one of the worst names. As he is like the savage beast against the black man of America, and the world of the people of God shall go down with the beast in the lake of fire. Our unity with God, who has already appeared amongst us in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all praise is due forever, who set us in heaven while we live on this earth, our national home. The home of the black man and woman is the planet Earth. Not just Africa, not just Israel, not just America, not just Asia, but the whole planet. With the best parts, which is the parts which we present day call Israel, Middle East, Northeast Africa. But you have to understand who this devil is, who your enemy is. The understanding and the acceptance of white supremacy must come to the knowledge of what we have succumbed to. Because for you to reject white supremacy is a psychological, a neurological, a mental, a behavioral, and emotional disorder. It's a brain disease. For you to not acknowledge and accept the existence of white supremacy and the white man as the devil and his reality and his role that he plays in your life and your inability to remove yourself from his grasp is a brain disease. It's a mental disorder. So as we go forward, we have to realize that white supremacy plays both sides. And it uses one of its main instruments, the media, the news apparatus, as a conduit for that reality. Just think about this. The culture of dualism is created almost a chronic indecisiveness in the minds of the black man and woman, in the minds of American or people in general, but I am specifically talking to the black man and woman. This duality, what it does is it puts out a story and it makes us buy into that story. But the same entity is so creative that it puts out another story that is opposite of that. Now, and it gives some type of credibility to it and tries to substantiate it. And so now in our minds, you create in our consciousness or our subconscious this duality, this dualism, where we are split down the middle of what we should do and how we should do it. And that state of confusion gives us this high level of indecisiveness that says, well, hell, I might as well. I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. So I'm just going to do whatever. And then you create cognitive dissonance where innately you know what you're doing is not advantageous, but yet and still you participated in it because you've been contextualized as such to fulfill and to continue that reality. We got to understand the insidiousness of this society and what we have succumbed to. And what makes this so bad is that this type of thinking, this type of tampering with our genetic makeup, with our DNA, with our spiritual DNA, with our intellectual perspective has been passed on from generation to generation. We have given our descendants a level of confusion that is unprecedented in any other time in history. We are at the point where we have weakening to a very high level the black man that he is and the black woman that he or she is receptive and acceptive of almost anything that is disadvantageous for its survival. Changing, as I said before, the God into an organism that is totally and willingly submissive. I mean, totally remapping the human genome in ways that has been not seen up until this point in the past 6,000 years. Controlling external environmental factors into such a point that we have totally suppressed God in our lives, and we have become individual computers that have been reprogrammed in such a way that everything that is in our life is a potential health hazard. Think about the affluences and influences that have been in our lives that cause us to bring on death and devastation. The relationships are destroyed. Man and woman relationships. Brothers don't trust each other. The environments in which we learn are so poison and toxic that we come out stupid or more dumb than we did if we never went into those institutions. Our health, though we seem to be in a first world reality where we have access to all of the advancements in medicine, are the most unhealthiest people on the planet. You gotta hear me now. You have been remade, reshaped, and refashioned into something that is unhuman. You have been totally destroyed. Now, I want you to understand now that this white man has created factors, mechanisms that are responsible for all intellectual, emotional, and artistic functions of the brain and how we operate. He's created and concocted mechanisms that can be detected and analyzed and influenced either chemically or electronically. What am I saying? That he has found ways to disrupt, disturb, and to alter our operating systems, our brain's functions, our intellectual function, our emotional functions, our divine properties, chemically and electronically, by using the food, by using music or television or media. This is the way that we have been destroyed. These are forms of confusion that are subtly implemented into the universe, into the world, into society, to distract and to detach us from being a part of the solution. Therefore, we will continuously perpetuate the problem. When he can control you chemically and electronically, he has the ability to predictably produce behavioral and mental responses that can be induced and directly manipulated by subtle changes. That means that he can substitute intellectual and purposeful neuron functions to automatically induce responses in a way that will be detrimental to the health of you and your people. That means you automatically respond in a way that is detrimental. That means when you're put in a situation where you should be an aid or assistance to your brother, to your sister, that you should work into the benefit of your people, you do the opposite. He has created ways that you automatically respond in forms that are detrimental to the livelihood of you and your people. I mean, he has controlled the neurological pathways that creates automatic and blind responses that leads you down into the lake of fire, so teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. See, this is what happens in the present time when the minds of men are governed by Satan instead of God. And he has used his technology, which is his technology, in a ways to cross the idea and emotional impediments that keep us in a cycle of destruction and devastation. I'm going to finish here, brother and sister, because I've been going for a little while and I have to come back. But remember this as I close out. We must understand that no one cares about us, nor will anyone save us. We must save ourselves.
Because God has come in the person of Master Farad Muhammad and taught and revealed himself to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who has been the one who has taught, trained, and elevated the black man and woman in America to be a great, free, and independent people. The time is now. Like I said, time is not on our side, because if we don't do what must be done, as we see that this world is coming to an end, that God is bringing his wrath down through the weather and other forms to destroy their world. And if we do not identify the seriousness and the severity of what has been done, we will too befall the same judgment that will be given to the enemies of God. Until next time, I thank you for listening as I leave you as I greeted you in the words of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum.